Some collectors build their collections from an investment standpoint, others from a sentimental place. Well, regardless of the reason, it's only a matter of time and human nature before you begin to wonder about the value of your collection. In this segment of Frame, we are continuing our conversation about the private Quaker Oats collection, but joining me this time is local expert and graduate certified appraiser, Cheryl Marks. Thanks, Cheryl, for joining me on Frame.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, and thanks for helping us to understand the extensive collection you've seen and the value of some of the pieces in the collection. Let's talk about your expertise. What is a graduate certified appraiser?
Well, there are not many colleges that specialize in appraising, but I did go to one for 2.5 years in the Los Angeles area called the College for Appraisers, and graduated, took all their courses, graduated, also became a part of the local appraising association, and took what's required, which is called USPAP, for doing appraisal reports. When you're looking to value items, you have to do a lot of digging.
Well, you did some, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I know you did some digging on some pieces that we sent to you.
Yes.
So do you want to?
If we want, only because it was very interesting about these two guys.
These two? Okay, we'll start with these two gentlemen.
Okay, well, both of these are Toby Jugs. And they made a lot from different companies. This one was made from Woods & Son. Now, many of these companies have been around for centuries, but how you find out when it was actually made is you date it by looking at the marks, because the marks change over the years. This one was approximately in the 40s. Now there's some, the woods, start from the 1800s, but this particular one was produced by Woods & Son in England during the 1940s.
Interesting.
Now, one of the more expensive, even though they made a lot of Toby Jugs and character jugs, company was Royal Dalton in England. And they started, they have hundreds of them, and some of them are very valuable still, and others have value but not as valuable.
Okay.
Now this one was interesting because this one was a limited edition, and it was made, for the Quaker Oats I believe the 85th anniversary of Quaker Oats in 1984. So this one, it was interesting and easier to get information on because there was a lot of specifics.
Yes.
For instance, this one, there was a limited edition of 3,500 pieces. This is 2862 out of 3,500. So this one, I looked up, and when you're pricing things, there's all different levels of pricing. There can be the book value, and then there can be what we call real value. Now, the wish value of this was anywhere from $350 to $500.
Wow.
The actual selling checking on eBay sales and a few other places was around $250. So it can be, the real selling price can be quite different, much lower than the research price, yes.
Now, this one you researched, and the value of this
it's
particular...
only about $45. This is not a limited edition. The company is actually, old, but so is Royal Dalton.
A few more. Ooh, will you let me know which one of these you researched, and then we'll hold them up to the camera?
Okay. Well, I also found some interesting information, because when you're doing research, you are studying history.
Yes.
So I had to look up somewhat of the history of Aunt Jemima, when it started, how it started, what the name of the company was prior to it being bought by Quaker Oats. Originally, and it's interesting because this one on the back has the original company.
Turn it around.
The original company with Aunt Jemima was R.T. Davis Milling Company, and that was the original one. And this one's special because that's what it is. It has that. So this is one from the original company before it was owned by Quaker Oats.
Oh, understand.
So Quaker Oats bought the mill in 1926, And they started this in 1890, the original Aunt Jemima. And it was very interesting. They hired originally a former slave who was the spokesman, and her name was Nancy Green.
Yes.
And she became the spokesman, the original spokesman for them in 1890, which I thought was very interesting. And this, I believe, is definitely a caricature of her. There were different ones, and throughout the time, they also changed the look to modernize a little bit. Now
we
this
have a few
one,
different
yes.
looks here.
Now in 1933, now again they bought A.J. Mills in 1926. In 1933, Quaker Oats hired Ann Robinson for the Chicago World's Fair, and that's when they had their they introduced it all, and it became registered in 1937 with her face. So this is, I believe, this is the earlier one because I dated this through research, and it said this was from 1895. So this was prior to that,
Okay.
That probably was Nancy Green still at that point.
Looks pretty similar.
Yes, it
I
looks
wanna make
pretty
sure that you
similar
have-
to this. Now this one, I'm assuming, even though I could not find the exact, but I'm assuming that this was the next one.
So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. So
Okay, well,
when
it was-
beginning the process of researching this, you would read through the pamphlet and...
I try to find out any information that's printed on it. And I try to, the distributor is obviously Quaker Oats. You're going to look at the graphics to try to date approximately when they were using this graphic on it, and look at what it is. Now these were produced, so these are not as scarce as something that wasn't produced to be go along with something, but it's still relatively scarce. Just estimating.
Yes.
I would say the group could be, if this is totally an estimate, around $120.
Okay.
This one was approximately 45. This one was about 45, and this one I'm just judging in a similar range because I wasn't able to specifically find
that one.
I have to look at everything, and I have to look through, with a loop to see the printing, if it's a more modern print, if it's the original, printings.
Right.
There's a lot of clues that you look for.
Okay.
And, one of the main clues is if you look on eBay and the item is not completed, that's somebody's wish list of the price that they want. That doesn't mean that's the actual price that it got. And many times these things don't sell. They can go through, a week cycle or 2 weeks or a month, and they're still not selling. So the only way that you can really get any valid information is to see what they actually got upon completion.
Are there any other sources that you use that you're
There
able
are
to
lots of
share with
other
us?
sources. I Google everything to see if anything else comes up. When I'm doing my own appraisals, there are times I have to pay for specific sites, but they're not free, as an appraiser that will give you more specific information. Because a lot of times general information will not give you pricing. It'll give you history, it'll give you, pictures, graphics, this and that, but it won't give you the pricing.
Per the story,
Yes,
but not the
you have to
entire
pay
story.
for it.
Okay, well, what they say. Well, thank you so
You are
much for
very
this.
welcome.
Thanks for tuning into this segment of Frame. Frame is sponsored by Allegra, Cedar Rapids CrossFit, Click Marketing Solutions, Style Folio Jewelry,